sorry, it's still fascinating to try and think about what they're gonna do here. Um, two players I want to kind of talk about who are in vastly different situations that we haven't touched on yet, maybe a little bit for the second one. The first one we don't have to, well, that sounds mean. I'm not going to say that. The first one we just don't have as much information on is Mackenzie Holmes. They drafted her last year in the third round. I think Indiana's all-time program. I almost said franchise. Different, but college is moving towards franchises. All-time leading scorer for that program.
Male or female, by the way. Let's
Yes.
remember that.
Yep. Program. Yep. Yep.
Program.
Thank you. That is true.
He's dope.
So, like, she's a bucket getter. There's offense there. Like, for a team that, as Christian has pointed out, needs to fill positions, like, if she's able to, get to any semblance of the player, and obviously college isn't automatically transferred to the pros, but, the scoring potential is intriguing to say the least, right? I know the last thing, and I saw this because she was with Indiana when they came to play the University of Washington and squeaked that game out. That was very painful. That's right. She's a graduate assistant at Indiana and has been rehabbing there with Indiana as she's been a grad assistant, sorry. I know when she was drafted, I kind of asked, I was like, hey, is she going to come and visit the facility? Is she going to work out here? And my understanding was that she maybe a handful of times visited the facility, but that was kind of the extent of it. And kind of from there, it's been up in the air. I mean, she's a 6'3" forward, um, coming off of a tough, I believe it was a tough knee injury. Um, I don't know. In this one, I'm gonna kind of throw to you guys to see because again, there's kind of limited information, whether it is about where she is, because again, we haven't heard about her since, okay, grad assistant, and then we were busy with the season last year. Could this be a piece? Because she is a free agent, right? I think it was brought up to today actually or yesterday, that Liz Kitley with Las Vegas had signed her deal. Um, I don't know, because again, the scoring is intriguing, right? But also coming off of an injury that isn't exactly a minor injury is a giant question mark. Um, and with her not necessarily spending too much time here, maybe she doesn't have any attachment or reason to want to come back to Seattle. I'm gonna kind of throw that there because I don't know. Like again, it's just kind of a I don't know situation. Does it any thoughts here?
Honestly, I've watched a lot of tape when Seattle first made that draft pick, and I was like, wow, 6'3", can really pop it from inside or out, 15 to 18 foot. It's really great and low post with the ball in their hands, especially passing out of double teams, because you can put the ball on the floor. So that's kind of what a couple things I saw. I was like, wow, this is like a really, modern 4 or 5 WNBA player, right? Um, I'm not as concerned about the injury because, as I understand, she didn't really have that many in college. So as far as like anything like major, as far as going under the knife or anything like that. So I'm not as worried as some other players that have went under the knife multiple times, had multiple knee issues in college. Like Rowan said, that's something that you have to pay attention to. Um, it's just bare bones, guys. Like if you would have told me at this point, maybe a month ago that Seattle wouldn't have signed a single free agent outside of the only player they thought they would have signed, like what's about the elephant in the room also? Gabby Williams has not signed her core offer yet.
That was my next one. Yep.
Like she hasn't signed her core offer yet. So there is a world where she could request a trade. And I feel like this is now even more. I don't have any sources or anything on this. I'm just spitballing. This is what I've been thinking the last couple of days. Not Seattle, New York struck out on the Sati deal, obviously because there was a report that Kurt Miller wanted Leonie Fibich and Queen Bee. That wasn't going to happen. Yeah, I don't know what that was, but yeah, they're not going to happen. So New York struck out, and like Rowan was saying before we recorded, that Sabrina Ionescu said in Unrivaled that we're good basically with the roster they have in New York, and that is true. They may be great, but at the same time, look at all the other things that have improved. You've got a two-headed monster in Atlanta right now with Breonna Jones and BG. I'm not really worried about the whole spacing and shooting thing because you've got a 6'4" center and a 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" BG. So like just deal with that first, then worry about the shooting, right? Use all the team fouls that you have in the first half. Then you've got other teams like Indiana's got so much better. Like they've got Sophie Cunningham, they've got Tasha Howard, they've got vet pieces. They brought Cassie Milcher back. Look at Dallas, like
Luana
Rowan and
Bonner.
DeWanna Bonner. Like, how did I just forget they signed DeWanna Bonner too? Like all these other teams are making improvements. Minnesota's making continuity, bringing everybody back. Phoenix looks great. I mean, they have AT, Satu, Ka. They're trying to figure out, they got Natasha Mack, who's a really underrated defender in this league right now. New York can see, hey, we're behind the eight ball. Trade for Gabby Williams. Like that's a realistic possibility right now because that was already a rumor around before the core offer came out that possibly they could sign a trade for that. So we'll see. That was a long way around, but I mean, the
No,
league
that
has
makes
gotten better,
sense.
you know?
Rowan, do you have anything on Kenzie or uh
Yeah, I mean, I haven't. I remember she was great in college. I think at least with Liz Kitley when she was drafted, it was kind of one of those things that felt like she would have gone a lot higher if she wasn't injured.
yeah.
And so I'm not saying that that necessarily is like I'm not claiming to have watched a lot of Mackenzie Holmes, and I remember her in college. I think she was great, but I haven't really looked much into. I honestly kind of forget sometimes that she is signed. But just looking, I'm comparing her to Liz Kitley in that way where they were comparable in college. And I think that she could be one of those players, just like I'm assuming Liz Kitley is going to be, where teams are going to be like, wow, like we let them get her in the third round. Like this is crazy. Because I remember on draft night, I just kept waiting for Liz Kitley. I was like, okay, she might be injured now, but that's not forever. So yeah, I mean, I think being a 6'3" forward in the WNBA is who can score is huge. I mean, I think we're moving away from just basketball in general is moving away from, the really structured positions and moving more to you have to be able to play everything and to have that height is huge to be able to score in the way that she does against, Indiana was a really great team. They made a pretty deep, run and she was a huge part of that. So I think that that could be huge if we're able to tap into that. But just knowing the way that the storm is, and going to talk about Nika for a moment. Just I think a lot of the younger talent,
Free
um,
Nika.
a lot with the younger talent, I think. Um, the Storm hasn't needed to tap into it so much that there's players like Nika who, got some minutes and but not that many minutes because we had Skylar. And so it was just I think that I guess if free agency is going to go and trading and everything is going to go the way that we think it is, then Mackenzie Holmes could get some great minutes. But if we were to sign if the Storm were to sign a big free agent, maybe not so much. So hopefully we'll see that tapped into. But I think it kind of depends on how everything else goes. And like you're saying, who knows if she's even going to be offered a contract. But I would love to see it. Again, especially if they can't pull anything else off in a sign and trade or in a one of the last good free agents or pretty big free agents that they have so I'd love to see it. Yeah, I think she's great.
We've all heard the expression beggars can't be choosers right now, and I don't think Seattle can afford to pass up Mackenzie Holmes.
Totally,
Like,
exactly.
first of all, we understood she was kind of a stash, drafting stash in the first place, just like kind
Mhm.
of like Liz Kinley. So to not give her a contract at this point is kind of like, well, I mean,
Right.
wasn't that the whole point? you
And I'd
know?
be interested too. I mean, if the Storm didn't offer her a contract, I wouldn't be surprised if someone else did. If someone
Yeah.
else, took a chance on her. I think we're seeing some people like I saw Annalie Mailey got she signed
Mhm.
somewhere today, and some other players that are kind of being like every year that maybe we heard about a couple of years ago, and they're being given a second chance. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone gave her another chance as well. And so that would really suck if the Storm passed her up and then, she ended up going somewhere else and doing something that she could have done in Seattle. So I would go for it if I were them.
Speaking of that, I've been an Emily Ainsley fan for like
Mhm.
years,
Yes, me
and I've
too.
always wanted her to get like a consistent shot because I feel like she could do pretty much
Mm.
everything besides like shoot deep threes.
Mhm.
And she's kind of like the perfect kind of forward in today's game. Like she can get on the boards, she can pass it. I've seen her do so much, and like I know the injury, so like she's had two major ones, like a knee and an ankle, over the last couple of seasons. But like She's an unrestricted free agent too, so you could use that kind of
Hmm.
scrappy player coming off the bench. You know,
She's not even 25 yet. So
exactly. Like she's got years ahead of her.
quickly on Kenzie Holmes to wrap it up, and then if we have stuff on Gabby, because Christian mentioned it, and it is fascinating. So reading some, I love supporting smaller media. This is Portland, Maine. The Portland Press Herald. She at a minor league baseball game, Kenzie Holmes got her own bobblehead. That's the reason for the article. I'm not just telling you that to tell you that. But it was a left knee injury. She declined in this interview to talk about the specifics, but said, "This is a pretty unique surgery. There's really no timetable for me. Something about 8 to 9 months." And then she said, "That'll put me at January, which we have just passed, um, to give me a lot of time for the season." And then the other piece, so it's like that's a little bit of background on the injury there. There was also about how she did visit Seattle, mentioning that she found out about the draft when her name flashed out on the bottom, just like everyone else would see. But she said it was a dream come true. I visited Seattle back in May before my surgery. Talked about Jewel and Skylar and NECA in the locker room. When they played Phoenix, she said she saw DT and BG and said, "Holy crap, I'm going to play against these people," which, fair enough. And then the other piece of information, this is again smaller media. This is the Indiana Daily Student. Good luck to children. Um, but in this write-up, when it was announced that she was going to be a grad assistant back in July, um, it says that she will join the Storm for training camp in 2025. Obviously, this is last year in July by a daily student newspaper. That's not verbatim, but from both of those articles, it seems like Seattle did keep in touch with her. So I would just imagine we're leaning to it. She at least gets a training camp contract. They see what's up. And like Christian said, beggars cannot be choosers. And I don't think Kenzie Holmes is the worst person to take a flyer on, right?
Investigative reporter Charles, y'all.
I can read a
Yeah,
little
in
bit.
No,
action.
I know. Like finding something in Portland, Maine, the complete
No, for
other
real.
side of the country.
Minor league baseball never failed me. That's a lie. Baseball hurts very much.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, were you going to watch the Seattle Storm away games this year?
Away games. Well, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports. So I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See you all here.